Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I thought, you know what we could do today? We could have a bit of a catch up. I'm going to do my makeup as well. Don't worry, I won't stay looking this disgusting. I'm going to do my makeup and I thought we could have a catch up, all things second trimester, because I actually haven't spoken about, done like a general pregnancy catch up for a while. I feel like I've put little things in different vlogs and stuff, but actually have like a full on catch up. I can do a bit of a Q&A with some questions I've got, just give you an update. And I also want to talk a little bit about like endometriosis in pregnancy. I'm not going to do too much in this video because I was kind of thinking I could do a whole separate video on that, because it's been about a year now, I think, since my last video on endometriosis, and I know that it helped a lot of people. I got a lot of messages from people saying that it really helped them. So I thought maybe I could do a whole separate video specifically as well about how I'm finding it in pregnancy, how it's affecting my pregnancy. I can briefly talk about it in here as well, but yeah, let me know if that's a video you would like to see or you would find useful. But yeah, I thought we could do a bit of a, I mean, I'd get ready with me as well, but not that I'm doing much today. I've got my two best friends. I always think, which way does that go? That way. I've got my two best friends coming round, and one of them has got a little baby and she's so cute. I have met her before, but she's just adorable. So yeah, she's coming round, and we're just gonna have a bit of a catch up. I think we're gonna go get some like picnicky foods and just have a bit of a catch up. But yeah, this is my current skin as well, in case anyone's interested in pregnancy. It's definitely not been helping. It's made me break out quite a bit. I don't know how well you can see with the lighting, but yeah, it's not the greatest, but we're embracing it because it's all worth it for baby boy. But yeah, I thought that's what I could do for this video, and I hope you enjoy. If you didn't get to ask any questions on the Q&A and you've got any after this video, leave them in the comments and I'll answer them as well in the comments. So yeah, don't worry if you did miss out on the Q&A. Not that you probably are worried, but yeah, that's the video for today. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so I'm going to start by, sorry if I'm looking down by the way, it's because that's my mirror. But I'm going to start by telling you like the weeks that count as a second trimester, because I was a bit confused before I was pregnant as well, and I think some people do count different weeks anyway, so it still is a bit confusing, I'm not going to lie. But basically it's from 13 weeks is how I understand it. It's from 13 weeks to I think 27 that you're in the second trimester. I'm currently just over 22, so yeah, quite far into the second trimester now. Okay, I'm going to start with how long it took to feel better after the first trimester, because if you've watched my first trimester vlog, you will know I had a rough first trimester. Like, it was a journey. It was not fun at all. I hated every second of it, I'm not gonna lie. And I don't think it should be taboo to say that you don't enjoy pregnancy. I would still say now I'm not enjoying pregnancy, and I think that's completely okay. It doesn't mean that you love your baby any less. It doesn't mean that you're not grateful for the pregnancy. I don't think it means that at all. I just think pregnancy is such a hard thing that should not be portrayed in this light of like it's magical. It's like, it can be for some people, but realistically for a lot of people it's not. So yeah, I'm still not enjoying it, I'm not gonna lie. It's definitely a lot better. I had HG, oh, I've got hair somewhere, I can't see it, where is it? There it is. I had HG in the first trimester, and to be honest, and part of the second trimester, and basically HG, again, if you haven't watched my first trimester vlog, I would leave it down below in case you want to catch up, because that was all like real time pretty much as it was happening, whereas this is obviously just to catch up. HG is basically very severe morning sickness, like you can't keep any fluids down, nothing. And I had that for all of my first trimester from about weeks 5 onwards. And I'm not gonna lie, it didn't ease up until a few weeks ago. And even like last week, like it's obviously it's only Tuesday when I'm filming this, but last week I was still being sick. Like, it's not, the sickness hasn't stopped, it's just gone down a lot. Like, it was about 10 times a day. Then by sort of week 16 it went down to like a couple times a day, and now I would say it's like a few times a week rather than every day. It's definitely not every day anymore, which even that, it's only not been every day for like 2 weeks. So even that lately has been such a relief, even though it's obviously still not nice to be throwing up every week, but it's better than every day, and it's better than 10 times a day. So I'm grateful for that, but because honestly that's probably like the worst pregnancy symptom that I've experienced. I mean, there's a lot of not nice ones, and I'll get into all of them, but for me sickness was the worst, because it just, you don't really understand how it affects your mental like well-being until you start throwing up 10 times a day. It affects your relationship with food. I became quite scared of food. I didn't want to eat because I just would think about how it would be coming back up. I'd be obviously so anxious that baby's not getting any nutrition. It makes you down because you feel like you can't leave the house, because you don't know, you need to think about if there's going to be toilets or if you're going to make a car journey without being sick. You can't leave the house without a bag to throw up in. Honestly, it was just awful. It's horrible. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Luckily I'm not an emetophobe. I think that's the word, isn't it, when you're scared of being sick? Luckily I'm not, but I still definitely don't enjoy it. But I can imagine if you're an emetophobe, it's probably definitely the worst pregnancy symptom. But yeah, that has definitely eased a lot. The next one I would say that I experienced quite badly in the first trimester as well was exhaustion. And it's hard to explain, like, you know, when you're just so tired, like it like comes over your face and like you just feel like your face is like droopy. That tiredness, like, oh my god, it is awful. Like, I was having to go to bed at like sort of 6 p.m. In the evening in the first trimester. That is definitely not the case anymore. I'm still, don't get me wrong, I'm exhausted, but I would definitely say I'm more physically exhausted now, from like all the extra weight and everything like that. I can go to bed at like a normal bedtime now. It's still not as late as it used to be pre-pregnancy, but I can probably stay up till sort of 10, half 10 nowadays and be okay. Whereas obviously, yeah, the first trimester, I would literally not be able to function the next day if I'd gone to bed that late. But now it's pure just physical exhaustion. Like, obviously I'm getting bigger, baby's getting heavier, my back is really starting to hurt, I'm getting, you know, really bad pelvic pain, all stuff that I thought would come in the third trimester, but actually it's already quite bad, I'm not gonna lie. Like, the pelvic pain, you just feel physically exhausted. Like, I would literally just walk around and that's me done. Like, I'm exhausted from that, which obviously isn't great. It's not nice. What else? Round ligament pain. Again, if you don't know what round ligament pain is, it's basically like where your uterus and sort of organs are moving, but specifically your uterus is obviously growing and stretching to accommodate the baby growing. It's basically pains from that. So if you like move too suddenly, if you cough, sneeze, laugh, get out of bed too quickly, like anything like that can basically trigger it. And yeah, it is quite painful, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I just get out of bed like normally and forget that I'm actually pregnant and I need to sort of get out of bed slowly. So now I've got into the habit of like rolling very slowly out of bed, and it's working. But yeah, that's not a nice symptom. And when you experience that for the first time, it's quite worrying. Like, I remember when I first felt that and I was like, what was that? Like, that can't be right. Like, I got really anxious. But it is very normal in the second trimester and the third trimester. Like, it's really normal. That leads me nicely onto my next symptom that's been quite bad in the second trimester, and that's anxiety. And I had quite bad anxiety in the first trimester. Again, if you've watched my first trimester vlog, then you'll know that I had a miscarriage right before this cycle, actually. So I essentially did almost, well, about over half of a first trimester of another pregnancy, and then like there's 5 weeks between this pregnancy and my last one. So the hormones don't just instantly leave your body, so you still feel pregnant for a couple of weeks as well. So I essentially had about 3 weeks where I sort of felt normal, but I didn't really feel normal because obviously I was grieving and just not in a great place. So I've essentially been pregnant, or felt pregnant, since mid-September, which would make me nearly 30 weeks if I was still pregnant with that pregnancy. So I've obviously had my fair share of anxiety in the first trimesters, like, that's no secret, obviously. I think even if you haven't experienced loss, pregnancy is such an anxious time. Like, it really is, because you just have no control over what's going on. You just essentially have to, do you know what, I want some more blush. I feel like it's a blush day, sorry. You essentially just have to sort of trust that your body is keeping your baby safe, and there's literally nothing you can do. Obviously you can try and stay healthy, you can take your vitamins and everything like that. Obviously give up all the things you need to give up, like alcohol and smoking and, you know, caffeine and everything like that. But other than that, it's pretty much out of your hands, and you have to just sort of trust in the universe, I say. And like, I definitely, this might sound a bit cringy, but since going through a loss, I definitely do feel like there's like a bigger force out there. And I'm not saying that I'm not religious or anything like that, and I don't really even believe in manifestation that much, but I do think that like things happen for a reason, and you kind of just do have to trust in the process, and like that things are going to work out for you as they should. I think that's the only kind of like comforting way of looking at a loss, really. Not that there really is a comforting way, but that's the only thing that sort of made me think there's a reason for everything that happens. So yeah, that helped with my anxiety. I'm not gonna lie, that actually did help with my anxiety quite a bit. But in the second trimester, the anxiety comes more at that, like, you know you're pregnant, there's no avoiding you're pregnant, like, as in like you can see you're pregnant. But when some of your first trimester symptoms start to ease and you start to feel, not, I wouldn't say normal, because not in my experience, I felt normal this whole pregnancy, but you start to feel like a little bit more human, a little bit better. So then where you've got yourself feeling a bit better, but you've not got any like kicks or anything yet, you do sort of start to worry a bit, like, is this real? Like, is he okay in there? Like, and you sort of have no real reassurance, especially as well, because once you've had your 12-week scan, you don't get another one until 20 weeks. Obviously, you can pay for them, but obviously not everyone is in a position to do that. So there's potentially quite a long waiting period as well before you can see them again. So you haven't really got a lot of reassurance until you start feeling these kicks. And some people feel kicks really, really early. But some people don't, and if you're like me, it depends on where your placenta is as well. So I have an anterior placenta, which means, from my understanding, the placenta's like in front of the baby. So even though the baby is kicking, and I've seen him on scans, like, he's very, very active. I can feel him now, by the way, but I'll get into when I started feeling him. But I knew he was very active. Like, it's not that I knew he was. They tell me he's really, really active, but you just can't feel it because of your placenta. And I know people that started feeling movements and kicks from about 13 weeks. I didn't feel any movement until 20 weeks, and even then it was like very subtle little flutters. Now 2 weeks later, I can definitely notice him. I don't know if it's him moving or him kicking, but I can feel like things moving in there, things, you know, happening in there. Again, it's still like quite subtle. Like, I haven't had sort of any sort of like kicks that made me go like, oh my god, that hurt. Like, I've had the movements, I'm not gonna lie, do creep me out a little bit. I'm getting used to them now though, but when they first started happening 2 weeks ago, it was like, oh, like weird, because obviously you've never experienced anything like that before, so it is a bit strange, and it is a bit creepy when you think about it, like something's just moving inside of you. But I would say I'm probably used to that now. But even now, I wouldn't say they're particularly strong movements or particularly strong kicks. I don't know if that's just how it will be for me because of my placenta, or if it's just because, you know, they're going to get stronger as he gets bigger. We'll see. But yeah, at the moment, I'm feeling him quite a bit, I would say. More sort of like first thing in the morning, late at night kind of thing, a bit in the afternoon some days. I wouldn't say it really has a pattern yet, which I was really worried about, again, leading on with anxiety. But they do say that they don't develop a pattern until like more like sort of 24, 25 weeks, I think, where you can sort of like, then sort of like, if anything's out of the ordinary, then you'd call triage. Because I keep thinking like, oh, have I heard him kick? Have I heard him? Have I felt him kick today? Should I call triage? But it can be different every day at the moment. Like, it says that apparently there's like more active days in the womb at the moment than other days, and some days like he could just be completely behind my placenta, so I wouldn't really feel much, and other days he's at the side, like I can feel that he's at the side and I can feel those kicks quite strong. So yeah, it definitely depends. If you're pregnant now and you haven't felt kicks yet, I wouldn't worry. If you're still under 24 weeks, they say if you get to 24 weeks and you haven't felt any movement, then you should go in and get checked. But if you're below that, then I wouldn't stress out about it, because I sort of was quite worried about it for a while. Like when it was getting up to 20 weeks and I knew that people had been feeling since 13, or then people started feeling at 14, 15. I did start to worry, I'm not gonna lie. I was getting a bit anxious about it, but again, I put that down to my anxiety just being quite high throughout the whole pregnancy, because I look back now and I'm like, it's completely okay for them not to be moving, not to be feeling them move at that point. And if you've been to scans and they've said he's moving, then that's all that matters. But my anxiety did get so bad that it did result in me having to book an emergency, like I say emergency, but like basically like a last minute on the day scan. Obviously private, because the NHS don't do that. So I did end up going to get seen. It cost me, I think, £70, which is a lot of money, but at the time I was just convinced that something was wrong and it was the only thing that was gonna like soothe my anxiety. So we just decided to do it. We really got ourselves worked up. I can't remember the reason. I think it's because obviously I hadn't felt movements. I was getting some more like sort of cramps and stuff, which again can be really normal in pregnancy. It also can be a sign of something bad, so definitely sort of monitor it if you are getting cramps. Don't panic straight away, because it can be very normal. In my experience, they've been normal, but I think because I associate cramps with having a miscarriage, because that's what happened before, I just get really anxious. So that had made me really, really anxious. So I just kind of got in my head, and once I got in my head, I was just like, something's not right. So we were like, well, the only way we're going to know is by going and paying for a scan, and we did, and everything was absolutely fine. It was purely just my anxiety getting the best of me. He was fine. They said like he's really, really active. It's just your placenta, you can't feel him yet. Completely normal. So yeah, I definitely would say if you are in a position where you can spare that £70, I think it might be a bit more depending on obviously the company you go with, but mine was 70. I think they range from like 70 to 80. Depends what kind of scan as well. I know that like 4D and gender scans are more, but just your typical reassurance scan, I would say shouldn't be too much more than 80. So if you can spare that money, I would suggest it, because it would definitely help your anxiety. But obviously I understand that, you know, it's not something I could do regularly, and some people obviously wouldn't be able to do that at all, so it is completely understandable. But just in case you didn't know, you could get reassurance scans whenever you want. You can if you pay for them. It's a bit, I think it's quite bad that on the NHS you literally get 2 scans. You get 12 weeks and 20 weeks. That leads me on to my next point though about scans, because I am actually getting more on the NHS. So basically, because of my endometriosis being quite bad at the moment, as in, and I say endometriosis because basically this confused me in pregnancy, and no one really explained it to me that well. Everyone just said, oh my god, your endometriosis gets better when you're pregnant, and I was like, great, I'm gonna have a great pregnancy, I'm gonna have like 9 months off of pain, it's gonna be wonderful. Nope, that is not what happened. So basically the way I understand it is like the active cells of endometriosis like can't grow in pregnancy because you're not having a period, but all the damage that it's already done to your body is all still there, and that won't improve in pregnancy. It just sort of like won't get worse because it's not being added to, if that makes sense. So I had, oh, I can't actually find my lip liner. I had, there it is. No, let's do this one. I had a build-up of scar tissue and adhesions, and all my organs, sorry if this is a bit gross, are basically stuck together in that region. My ovaries are completely in places. I think I did say this in my first trimester, but my ovaries are not where they're supposed to be at all. They're completely stuck to different organs, and honestly she said it's a miracle really that I managed to get pregnant. So because of that, I'm having to be a bit more monitored. Not like, I'm not high risk, but they've just sort of put me up to sort of like the next sort of like, not low risk, but sort of like, I think it's called increased risk. It's not high risk, but it's just enough to sort of get monitored. So let me do my lip liner and come back, because I'm not gonna be able to talk. But yeah, I've basically been put on something called the Gap and Grow scheme, or something like that basically, where they have to give you regular scans to check baby's growth, and that everything's okay in there in terms of space, because obviously I haven't got as much space, where everything's sort of already quite squished together. So I've got to check my notes to be sure, but I think it's from, I get a next scan on the NHS at like 30 weeks, I want to say. But again, it could be 32 or 34, I can't remember. Basically, from around 30 weeks, I get a scan every 4 weeks on the NHS until 40. So just for them to monitor towards the end. So I still haven't got one on the NHS for a 10-week at least block. But I was quite like, when they first said that, sorry again, I'm like talking really weirdly because I'm doing my lipstick. When they first said that, I was a bit like, oh no, like more things to worry about. Actually, the way I look at it now, it's like being monitored is actually probably a good, oh, there's so many flies in my house at the moment. Being monitored is probably actually a good thing, because what's the harm in getting monitored a bit more closely? Like, it's probably a good thing, right? So yeah, I get a bit more scans. I'm 22 weeks, I haven't had a scan for 2 weeks. I'm gonna pay for a private 4D scan at 26 weeks, which I think is the time they recommend. So I think you can do it anytime from 24 weeks to about 28 is sort of like the period you should do it in. So I think they say the best week is 26 weeks to get sort of like the best picture of baby and all his features and everything. So we're going to pay for that, which will be in about a month's time. Well, actually less than a month, because I worked out it's the 6th of April, where I'll be 1 day away from being 26. Because I'm turning the new week on Sundays. They don't do scans on Sundays, so I always have to do it like the day before, because I'm not waiting a whole nother week. No way. So we're going to do that on the 6th of April. Again, maybe I'll try and vlog that. I'll definitely show you the pictures and stuff. So that'll be the next scan we have, which I'm trying to plan it so that I'm sort of don't go more than sort of 4 or 5 weeks without a scan, just because that helps my anxiety a lot. And yeah, luckily I won't have to pay for any more after this one, because I'll have my NHS ones. Okay, I'm just gonna do my setting spray and then I'll get to the sort of Q&A part of this video. I hate doing setting spray. Ugh. Also, I was gonna say remind me, like you can actually speak through the camera, but I need to remember to show you my bump as well at the end of this, just so you've got a bit of a bump update as well for 22 weeks. But I'm gonna start with the questions. So the first question is, have you decided on a name? And yes, we have. I would say, I mean, I keep saying 95%, but I'm pretty sure we're 100%, because I keep thinking like, this is what we've been calling him, like when we speak to him, or like talk about him, we call him by his name. So I can't really see it changing unless like we just happen to overhear or like hear on a film or whatever a name and just fall in love with that more. But I just don't see that happening now in the next sort of 17, 18 weeks. I really don't see that happening. So yeah, I would say we have decided on a name and we love it. I'm not going to tell you what the name is, but I'll give you like a little bit of a background, well not background, but it's not a very unique name. I would say it's quite it's not a popular name, because it's not like popular in the sense that the way I think of popular names at the moment are like quite like unusual names. I feel like that's what people are going for more. So I wouldn't say it's popular, but I would say it's very well known. It's not unique or anything like that. The full version of it is probably a little bit more unique, because what a lot of people would think is the full version of this nickname isn't what his full version will be, if that makes sense. So it is a little bit different, but it's still a very well-known name. That's kind of what we wanted. We didn't want like, I didn't want a name that's sort of like overused, but I also didn't want a name that's just like so unique that people aren't going to have heard of it, that's going to be difficult for him to spell, things like that. So yeah, I do really love the name. I can't really remember, it was always on my list, but yeah, I love it, and we both love it. So we've told like family and very close friends, and everyone really loves it. So I think it's probably what we'll use. The next question is, are you getting like nervous for birth? I don't know how to answer this question, because obviously like I'm nervous, but I'm not like overly nervous, if that makes sense. I'm honestly more scared for postpartum because of what's happening with my endo. So I'm more scared of like how that's gonna be. So I'm just gonna adjust my hair as well. I'm more scared for like how, oh my god, I'm more scared for how it's gonna be when that comes back. Like if that just comes back instantly, or hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, I'm quite scared for that. Should we just leave the hair like this actually? That's quite cute, isn't it? Yeah, I'm more scared for that than I am birth, but obviously I'd be lying if I was saying I wasn't like a little bit nervous for birth. But I definitely wouldn't say it's like eating me alive. Like I know some people are like so consumed by that fear, and I just kind of, I'm going in there with the mindset of like, it's, you know, he's got to come out, and no matter how painful it will be, it will also be the best day of my life. And I know it sounds a bit cringe, but with my endometriosis, I go through excruciating pain daily. Maybe not excruciating daily, but as in like I've experienced excruciating pain with that, and I experience that daily, like the endometriosis daily, and from that I get nothing out of it. Nothing good comes from it. I don't get rewarded, nothing. Whereas this is going to be excruciating and horrible, I'm sure, but I'm going to get something out of it, and I'm going to get the best thing possible out of it. So I just think that's already so much better. Do you know what I mean? And like also, as bad as it might be, realistically, what's the most it could last? A few days, in terms of like when you're actually contracting and stuff, for okay, maybe like 5-6 days at most if you get induced. Do you know what I mean? Like that's it. It wouldn't last more than a week. Whereas I have my endometriosis for life, and I have to deal with that for life. And even postpartum is way longer than birth. Even pregnancy is way longer than birth. So I just think out of all the things you go through to get a baby, like, you know, the heartbreak it can be of trying to conceive, miscarriages in my case, horrible pregnancy, potential horrible postpartum, out of all those things I'm doing to get my baby, the birth is going to be the quickest bit. So I'm trying to look at it like that, and rather than getting myself scared. Obviously I am thinking about things more. Like I'm not so scared of the pain. I'm more scared of like things that could go wrong, if that makes sense. So like I keep seeing videos on TikTok of like people having cardiac arrests and stuff, and I just think like I don't want to know, I don't want to hear about it. And I feel that way the birth plan. Like I'm gonna write one, just because I think you have to. I don't know if you have to, but I probably will write one. But I'm kind of gonna go in there with the mindset of like, what will be, like things will change, and I think you have to get on board with things quite quickly as they're changing. So there's no point being like set on like exactly how you want things to go. It's better to just sort of go with the flow if you can. Like obviously I've got ideal preferences. My ideal preferences would be natural birth. That would be my ideal preference, just because I'm thinking of like the recovery more of a C-section. If I have to have a C-section, of course, obviously that has to happen, but ideally I would like to not have one. I'm sure like a lot of people feel that way. I just think the recovery for a C-section sounds really difficult, and I only have my partner at home for 2 weeks for the standard paternity, so I just know that like I'm gonna be alone a lot after that. So it would be better if I could be on back of my feet a bit sooner, which obviously you are with a natural birth. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm also going to see Taylor Swift in about 4 weeks after my due date, so would like to be on my feet for that. What other reasons do I have? yeah, I just think the recovery for me is what sort of sells natural labour. I think natural is a horrible word to use, because like all births are natural and all births are wonderful. I actually think it's a horrible word to use, but I just always find it a bit weird saying like vaginal birth, but that's the technical term for it. I think C-sections, like I hate that people think C-sections is the easy way out, because I definitely do not believe that C-sections are the easy way out. It's literally a surgery. Like, I would rather have a natural birth than go through a surgery again. So I definitely don't think it's the easy way out, but it's definitely not my preference. What else was I going with? In terms of like pain relief, I'm kind of keeping an open mind. If I can do it without pain relief, that would be amazing, and that would be my ideal goal. But at the same time, how do you know? Like, I won't know until I get in, like, start experiencing that pain, whether I can handle it. If I feel like I can handle it, and if I feel like it's not as bad as my endo, or it's the same as my endo, I will just try and push through without pain relief, or at least without an epidural. But if I'm in there and I'm struggling and I'm not sleeping and I'm scared, then I will just have the pain relief, because I just think, you know, it doesn't make you a hero doing it without pain relief. It's just whatever you works for you. So yeah, I definitely am going in there with an open mind in terms of pain relief. I thought I'll probably write on my birth plan that like I'm open to it. If I ask for it, I want it. But yeah, I'm gonna see what the pain's like, because I've seen a lot of people that have endometriosis say, and they've given birth, say that they actually found birth not easy, because it's not easy, is it? But as in, like, they found the pain not as bad as the endo. But obviously pain's not the only part of birth. Like, it's the exhaustion, staying up, and do you know what I mean? There's so many things that come into play. So I'm literally just going to see how I feel. I would love to have a water birth, but again, the chances of that happening, like, it's out of your control, really. But I do think I'd like a water birth, because I love a bath. I feel very relaxed in the water, so it does sound nice. But again, open to sort of anything with that. Is what it is. In terms of birthing partners, I'm just having my partner. I'm not gonna have anyone else. I just think it's such like a vulnerable time that I just wouldn't really want that many people in there, to be honest. I just feel like I'm gonna be so embarrassed. So just my partner, and then obviously, like, as soon as it's visiting hours and stuff, I'll have my family there to see me and everything like that, of course. But yeah, just my partner for birthing partners. I'm trying to think what else there is, like, in terms of birth for preferences. That's all I can really think about without going into too much detail. If closer to the time when I've written my birth plan, maybe if you want, I could do like a video about, you know, my exact plan. Another question was about feeding baby. So my plan is to breastfeed, and again, I feel the same way about this than I do birth, because I just think I don't want to get my heart set on breastfeeding and then be so disappointed in myself if I can't. I'd rather just say that is my goal, and I'm going to try really, really hard at getting it to work. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And unfortunately, that does just happen sometimes, and especially because I have endometriosis as well, I am very aware of the fact that if that comes back in full swing, I will have to not breastfeed, because the tablets I have to take for my endo, I'm pretty sure, I'm going to check this with my midwife, but I'm pretty sure you can't take when breastfeeding, because obviously, again, I didn't realise this until I got pregnant, but there's a lot of things you also can't do if you're breastfeeding. It's the same with being pregnant. Like, you have to limit your caffeine still. Obviously you can't drink and, you know, use that milk and stuff like that. But yeah, I didn't realise it would be the same with like medication and stuff, but obviously it makes complete sense. So yeah, that's my goal. I would love to. I'm gonna just do exclusively pumping though. I'm not gonna do actually like latching. Again, this is my personal choice, and I can't really explain it without seeming silly, because it's literally just my personal choice. This might sound really silly, but I have a bit of a phobia of like my chest area. Like, I don't like it being touched. I don't like touching it. I don't like the thought of it's like nails on a chalkboard. I can't really explain it. I just feel so sensitive, and I don't like it. And I know it's only a baby, but I'd rather just express. And even me getting to the point where now I'm saying I'm expressing has come a long way for me, because at the start of pregnancy and before I was pregnant, I was like, I'm not breastfeeding, no way, I won't be able to do it, wouldn't be able to get over that. And now I'm like, no, I'm going to give pumping a go. So, and also I think with expressing, it also means then that your partner can feed with bottles and stuff as well, which is nice. So they get that time to bond as well. So I just think it's the best of both worlds, really. And we can still bond, like we can still do skin to skin, and, you know, we can bond in loads of other ways as well. So that's my plan. Hopefully it goes to plan, but we'll just have to see. Okay, I'm just going to answer one more question, because I feel like this video is going to be really long, and I can always do a whole separate video for a Q&A if need be. But the last question was about like people meeting baby, and yeah, how do I feel about that? What sort of my plan on, like, because I know some people say that they're not going to like let people meet them for a few weeks. I definitely don't feel that way, or at least not with family. I want my family to meet him as soon as possible, like as soon as possible. And again, who knows, this could change after I've given birth. Like if I've had a really traumatic birth, I might feel differently, but as of right now, as soon as those visiting hours open, I would like to have my family there to meet him, because I just think I'm close with my family. Like I've always had a really good relationship with them, so I want them to meet him straight away. My best friends, maybe not, you know, literally like straight away, but as in like quite soon, yeah, I'd say that I'd like them to meet him. I think in terms of friends, it's like there's probably a select few that I'd be like, yes, come and meet him, even, you know, in the first couple of weeks or whatever. But everyone else, I think, will just have to sort of wait until I feel ready, because I just don't know how I'm going to feel. Even if I've had a great birth, I'm still going to be getting into the swings of motherhood, and I'm sure it's going to be very difficult. And also, whilst Dan is off as the 2 weeks paternity, I'm going to want to make the most of like him being there for those 2 weeks. So I think we'll just have to see how it goes. But yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to people meeting him. I think that I really don't agree with that. Like, don't get me wrong, if it's like flu season and if it's in the winter, I would probably feel a lot differently, but he's going to be born in the summer, so I think that helps the anxiety of that. Obviously, if anyone's ill or anything like that, absolutely not, they will not be stepping foot into my house. But in terms of like, I don't know, there's this bit of a stigma of like, oh, passing the baby around and stuff like that. And again, I might feel differently when the baby's here, but if you're my family or my very close friends and I trust you, then I don't see why I'd have a problem with it. That's kind of like my thought process at the moment. I do kind of get what people say when they say that, like, if you didn't make an effort with me when you're pregnant, when I was pregnant, then don't expect to have a relationship with my child. I kind of agree with that, but I also just think that like the relationship people have with my child will be on them. Like, as in, it will play out how it plays out based on them, because he's a child. It's not like he can make an effort with them. Do you know what I mean? So if they want to make an effort to be in my son's life, they will. And if they don't, then they don't. That's absolutely fine. Do you know what I mean? So I think I'm just going to let it play out how it plays out. You know, I think there's always a bit of excitement at first, like, oh my god, can we meet him, can we meet him? And we'll just see who sticks around and who doesn't. I think that's kind of my thought process on that. But yeah, let's just finish by showing you the bump. Although it's first thing in the morning, I haven't even eaten anything yet, so this is pure just bump. Yeah, it's not massive, but it's definitely, you can tell there's definitely a baby in there. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's massive. I don't think I've got a massive bump, considering I'm 22 weeks. Like, I've seen people have much bigger than me, but I've also seen people have smaller than me. So yeah, pretty average, I'd say. They haven't said that he's small or anything from any measurements they've done so far. So hopefully, although they don't measure percentile until 28 weeks, so I won't actually know where he is on like the scale yet. But they've said at the scans that like he's the right size and everything so far. So yeah, I'm not worried about having a small bump, to be honest. I wouldn't say it's small, but I'm not worried about the fact that I'm not, you know, massive yet, because it's probably a blessing in disguise, because I'm already struggling like with exhaustion and being out of breath with just this bump. So yeah, I'm grateful for the small wins in pregnancies. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry it was a bit of a just sort of sat down chatty one, but hope you enjoyed it still. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you in my next video. If you've got any suggestions of videos you'd like to see, then definitely leave them in the comments and I'll bear that in mind. But yeah, hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.